The thing about Allen Ginsberg is, if you bear with me, I'm trying to find my copy of Howl. Right, give me 2 seconds. Found it. So the thing with Allen Ginsberg, I have read a lot of poetry in my time. Horace, did anyone read Horace, which was about a little boy who sat down and ate himself? So I've been into poetry for like flipping years, man. And like even when I wasn't into poetry, my favourite thing about music is lyrics. I was like, I am into artists who have really clever lyrics, who focus on their lyrics, like whose focus is, their lyrics. How many times do you want to say focus is lyrics, Hannah? So like even when I've not really thought I'm into poetry because songwriting is poetry, which is half the reason I relate to Min Yoongi so much, because he's a poet basically, and a poet that's gone through the same kind of stuff that I've gone through, who has the same kind of outlook and wants to do the same kind of stuff for the world that I do. That's like pretty special. So Allen Ginsberg, I've not actually studied him that much. I'm writing my dissertation on Howl, so I know the baseline, the foundation stuff about Allen Ginsberg and his poetry. But do they want to stop talking, like, seriously, like, right outside my window? For real now. The thing with Allen Ginsberg's poetry is, even though I knew a little bit about him, I remember watching Kill Your Darlings. I watched Kill Your Darlings years ago. It's one of my absolute favourite movies. And I'm not taking that for law at all, because half of it is dramatisation, as we know. I came into Howl with the kind of mindset that Kill Your Darlings gave me, and that is one thing I will give to that movie is, can I say aesthetic? Is it the aesthetic of Howl? Because I don't want to like romanticize Howl, because although it's a poem that, as we've heard Ginsberg talk about, it is a lot about imagery, like Monarch, this great beast. A lot of it is hyperbole. I don't want to romanticize it, because although it is all imagery, it's also, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed. It's about real people. It's dedicated to Carl Solomon. It's about a real person and real people and himself. He's really clever as well. His father was a poet, and you can tell he's writing not just to be political or not just to be social, but also because he has like this love of words, which is really intriguing, because Ginsberg as a character is such like of moral interest to me. He's a Jew but a practicing Buddhist, which is interesting. But he's just so it just like, he confounds me. You should watch his face-to-face interview. His face-to-face interview is really interesting. He's very, very well spoken, and he's thoughtful, and he's thought about all of these questions. Like, he has answers to them, so he's clearly thought about this stuff before. But at the same time, he's so raw. So you get this idea of him that he is very social, he is very political, that he does have this in mind when he's writing, but at the same time, he's not. He's like this guy, that did drugs and hung out in the village, and, there's this one line in Howl that I love. I posted it, I think, on Snapchat. I don't think I posted it on Instagram. This is the Modern Classics, the Penguin Modern Classics version, by the way, Howl Kaddish and Other Poems. The noise of wheels and children brought them down shuddering, mouth-racked and battered bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo. Now, in the face-to-face interview, is he talking about Walt Whitman, or is he talking about William Carlos Williams? Right, okay, I will look it up, and I'll write it like here, whether it was William Carlos Williams or Walt Whitman, because I literally cannot remember who it is right now. But he was talking about how they were coming up with this new kind of meter, what could be said in a breath, and that we're moving towards this more like sort of natural sound and pattern for poetry, which is interesting because Shakespeare is considered natural speech rhythm, like iambic pentameter is considered natural speech rhythm, and yet we've got this form here that it's kind of this formless form. It's written as you would say it on one breath. Shall I read, let me read the opening stanza. Because the opening stanza was my fave. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night. And that I can feel, like physically feel myself, like wanting to take a breath there. So that in itself is a really specific like thing that he's focused on, and he's had to take a lot of effort to make that into a thing. And yet, this was never meant to be published. He never thought of showing his father this. It wasn't It wasn't a thing. And yet, I feel like that's going to be like the title of my dissertation, watch it. Allen Ginsberg, and yet. Never in my life. And I will say, the poets that have intrigued me most in my life, William Blake, W.B. Yeats, another big one. These are poets who are, they're blunt. And Ginsberg in his own way is blunt. But as well as being blunt and raw, he's also very clever, and that combination works very well, especially in Howl. And that impresses me, and it confounds me, and it's like enigmatic, because I just don't know how to do that yet. And I want to know how to do that. But that's why I love Ginsberg so much, because he's like this enigma. Like, I don't know what to think of him. I don't know, like, is that not just like amazing? Like, not only is the poetry, not only is the poetry intriguing, but he as a character is intriguing. And I think that makes his poetry even more intriguing, because I always try to read poetry at surface level and then with the author in mind. Like, that's what you're taught to do as an English student, is you look at a poem at surface level, then you look at the context, and then it makes the poem completely different. And with Howl and with Ginsberg's poetry, it's like an entire world just opens up. It's like I can climb inside the poem once I know more about Ginsberg, and it's not just a case of adding a bit of context. It's like it adds life. And again, weird, because Howl has a life of its own. It's like there's energy, there is physical energy, and I think that has so much to do with the I'll go into like analysing the actual poem when I do my dissertation, and then I'll make a whole video just about that. I'm just so in love with this poem and this poet that I just needed to talk about it, because I've been home for so long and I have no one to talk to about these things, you know? If anyone else has studied Ginsberg and or Walt Whitman or Kerouac or William Carlos Williams or anyone else I have mentioned, hit me up, please, because I would love to chat about this stuff, and it would actually be really helpful for me to chat about this stuff, so cool. That's my little ramble for tonight. Was trying to record a cover tonight, but some like massive bangs were going on outside, the dogs started barking, doors started slamming, it was crazy, so cool. Thanks for listening, bye!